Welcome back, everyone. 皆さん、おかえりなさい。今日は83日目です。It is 83, day 83. Oh, there's Kate. Welcome back, Parthy. Let's see. So we kind of sort of timed out. There were 5 things from yesterday, so let's go over those. And a little bit more, right? If I recall. Let's write these down over here. So Kumal was there. Actually, yeah, that's fine. Right. Well, there was a pause on shoot shoot sha. They're currently on 150 to 200. Nice. Of no Duolingo. You just started volleyball. Neat. How's volleyball going? Or you mean on Duolingo or no Duolingo? Let's see. We also had Yaku. Was this Yaku? Yeah, Yaku. No Duolingo at all? I see. Nice. So what are you doing in volleyball? Yaku. And then Uchi. Yeah. The mother synonym, right? And then this one was personal ad from yesterday. Is that so soon, right? In a few days. You did some basic bumping and setting drills, then did scrimmage. Are you doing like intramural? How are you going about volleyball? Friends, family, local community. And this was Keenan, recent years. I think that's all of them from yesterday. So today is our pre-peak, right? So tomorrow's level up day. Pretty sure tomorrow's level up day, provided I don't drop the ball. Okay. So let's get into our review for today. Ato de. Aru. A not peaceful. Okay. Gaijin. Hoang.
不安
Do I still go with time or interval of time?
後で
Auto de.
間
時間
Zikan. 間もなく。間もなく。Not spaced out. Not long. Grass. Land. Ume?
不明
Ume. Direction. What are we using for this? We have kata. Kata is not the one we're looking for. Right. Hole. Probably what we're looking for. And another question. Are you saying like 200 days, like 150 days cents, or you're intentionally taking 50 days away for volleyball?
Ryosha.
Yosha. Were you different? Tachi. That sounds okay.
草地
Tachi.
まもなく
Amonaku.
明るい
Akari. Okay. Heck.
Bungaku
Bungaku. East de Ots. Dose.
土星
Dose. Dose. To stop something? Ooh, we haven't covered this retroactively yet. So probably to stop something. Tomeru, right? What else do we have that is like this? You have tomaru. So this still checks out with the me, right? These are me and ma. I'm not sure if I have tomaru to check. Stop something. Straightforward. I think. Stop things with a toe, right? And it was our coon read as well. She is the onion.
止める
Tomeru. Watched this earlier. Oh, I typed the wrong thing. Well, that's bound to happen sometime. That was a typo. Outside. Standalone. Okay, gotta write this down. So outside, and I guess I'm looking for a coon here. The heck is outside? Soto. I mean, soto because it's useful position, like soto ue. I don't remember what it is though.
外
Soto. What do you got? Salt? Okay. Yashi.
東
Tohoku.
東北
空間
Ukan. That's such a silly typo.
間
Aida. Yo. Oh. This one's a little shaky. So, let's see. Both plus direction. I'm definitely locking in yo, but then kata versus hall. We could go with hall, which would make it onyomi, which is more likely to happen. Kata, the kata comes up a lot at the end. We're gonna go with hall.
両方
Hall. That's kind of a shaky. Ryote, right? Ryote,
両手
because of body parts. Ningen,
人間
six. Choku. Itsu.
質
Uh-huh. Sushi. I knew this was gonna be a problem. I wanted to test it. That's a synonym botch right there. A bit. Skosh. That's being incomplete right there. Checked out on Hanzahiro as well. There's just went with a few and then added a bit. North direction. Northward? Oh, whoops, east. Eastward. My bad. Wasn't paying attention. Hey,
海外
I got
町民
Domin. This Sushi. Oh no. Not Scotia. Oh yeah. Wait. Why does that look weird? Eh? Uh. Huh. No, Scotia. Write this down. What? Few plus E. There's supposed to be a few or a little. I disagree with not including bit. In fact, skosh, the mnemonic for skosh is even closer to a bit. That looks a little
少し
squishy. Huh. Got
しか
this was human error. Both days. Ryojitsu.
両日
Zu.
ず
く。
引く
I refuse. We're normalizing that. Wait. Toho, right?
東方
Toho. That was unfortunate. That one's unfortunate.
視点
Sten.
南
Minami. Konbanwa, Yako-san. I'm doing pretty alright. There's been some here and there, some really, really fun evening coffee talk lately. How are you doing? We talked about French yesterday quite a bit. With SD. Port.
支える
Asaeru.
Gaikokujin
外国人
後ろ
Shiro. This is different. I should write this one down. So what do we have? It could be because it switches do for to. Tochi. Tochi. That sounds about right. Oh, what was it? It was a dirt plus earth. And then we have double on. In this case, I'm thinking it's special to plus chi, which is normal. Let's write this down. Doing good. What would be the highlight of the week in terms of interesting conversation? How to navigate relational drama, potential relational miscommunication, or maybe lack of empathy, or maybe how to address imposter syndrome between two people without using explicit dialogue or communication. That was yesterday's thing. Another one would be the nerfing of food as a vehicle for universal happiness. That sounds a little bombastic. It's not that colorful or fruitful, but that was just from yesterday. I'm basically predicating on recency largely because it's very difficult to recall the other ones at the moment. Inspiration and clairvoyance. I used to cut these out all the time. I used to make a separate series called Deep Digressions, and it just took a very long time, and diminished return and stuff. So it's in the videos, but I used to cut out long digressions. Back in the day, I thought maybe I'll commit an hour or two to do some of those segments in the middle of all the sessions, and yeah, there's like hundreds of those, but the nerfing in the context, well, so there are a lot of things that take up R&D, right? R&D, and we, humans bicker and have opinions and different resources, disagreements. However, imagine a world where, obviously in a parallel universe, where certain obstacles occur in different order, and one of the obstacles was lifted. It's kind of like a Black Mirror synopsis, I suppose. What if the drawbacks of consuming foods in excess, like the things we like to eat and horrendously engorge and gluttonous, what if those nerfs or balance patches were lifted? How would society change in their R&D prospects? Like, for example, there are a lot of competing things for human gluttony, pleasure, entertainment, and over the years, in my opinion, maybe like 5 or 6 years now, food have seen a resurgence. But I think the reality of the nature is the younger you get, the less and less food is a form of catharsis and incentive for doing things. And like, case in point, what would you do? Would you want to slam back 3 zero sugar energy drinks in order to play more video games, or take a diminished return and take 30 minutes of that day to enjoy and explore eating? And lately it's been on the uptrend again, but generally I think it plays second fiddle to a lot of things, largely because food is sort of balanced in its nature. So it would be interesting if something perpetuated a investment in food R&D without the balance patch and the nerfs. So for example, even to this day, it's fantastic that we have zero sugar substitutes, but even they are being nerfed and balanced by like excessive consumption, right? Like the context, the thing that triggered this was Sub-Zero was sharing with me his I'm a little envious momentarily, his delightful discovery of edamame pasta with a side of pesto. And I'm like, yes, I want some of that. And then the moment I thought about pesto, it's like, man, you can just it's a wonderful shelf life, it has wonderful properties, but you can't consume too much of it. It's incredibly calorie dense. Healthy foods, and then it led into healthy foods aren't necessarily calorie scarce or efficient. Often healthy foods tend to be calorie dense too. So like you have things that when people say, oh yeah, this is healthy, but even if it's healthy, if you eat a lot of it, you're going to risk gaining lots of unhealthy weight. So that kind of thing was what I was talking about. Like, imagine not having enough food versus, I don't know, doom scrolling, or not having interesting food because doom scrolling, that kind of thing. Like, if I had to choose, like, would I fly to Norway, sit down, and share a cold one with Sub-Zero? I would absolutely do that. If I was in a neighborhood, I would share a cold one, then doom scroll over like something and some consumable, right? But then again, even if you want to do that all the time, you got to find other ways, because food must be moderated, right? Like, we were talking about like guilty pleasures and like places where you find, and the reason why I landed on food is, if I had to like make a tier list or something that has the more lean, positive lean universally, it would be the food experience. It is cross-modal. It's one of the visceral things that experience takes front stage. Like, yeah, sure, you can describe how food tastes to other people, between people, but they all want to be part. You want to be part of that experience too. Video games is not the same. Intellectual things are not the same. Like, for now, I've been language learning for over a year now. It's not like people care. They don't have to. The experience can be vicariously felt by an end process, an end goal, that you don't really need to feel or empathize with the process itself. Like, you can choose to do so, obviously, but it's not inherently necessary. But food is. Money is not, right? How many discussions do you have? It's like, oh yeah, but my money is hard earned. Your money is easy come, right? And then you start racking up all the trends on the internet. What other foundational things that human needs? One most empathetically universal is consumption, food. And then you have like possibly music, but even music has, well, I think that's boring. Well, I think that's exciting. Yeah. When it comes to healthy behavior, including food consumption, I'm all about moderation. Of course, sometimes this moderation requires a conscious effort, which I'm guilty of not always making. Well, yeah, the moderation, well, I'm giving you the context of the nerfing. Food consumption requires moderation. It's a balance patch. The question is, it would be interesting to see how society change if one of the, this is the chicken or the egg. In my opinion, I would argue that your healthy behavior is a consequence of food moderation, not the other way around. As in, your behavior, I would argue that it would be an interesting social experiment or science fiction show or something to entertain ideas like, what if that moderation is not conditioned? Food consumption being moderated is, in my opinion, a consequence of biological moderation. And much like you said, it requires a conscious effort when you're one that you're guilty of not always making. So that was kind of the fun topic that we spent like 4 or 5 hours talking about, or celebrating, or something like that. And obviously it does seem to come more naturally to some people than others, requiring less conscious effort than for some other people. That I chalked it up to coincidence as opposed to a person's natural inclination. So like, what I mean is, I don't think evolutionarily or like biologically that is some form. I think it's coincidental. There isn't like a necessary property like it, actually I would think it would be more likely. So I don't feel like it's natural at all. I think it's unnatural for someone to coincidentally require less conscious effort because of, what the internet, doom scrolling, and all that has revealed, right? If you want more of something, you want more of it. So I feel like it's more coincidental. maybe perhaps environment and culture and whatnot. I don't think it's natural. Which is impressive. Very impressive. As in, I think it's culturally and environmentally conditioned, as opposed to something that I would consider natural, as in like some natural, because human consumes lots of carbs. Carbs are carbs. Energy monsters. What's natural is to feed your cellular respiration. It kind of, that's an opinion, of course. It kind of speaks volumes when you spend a lot of conscious efforts reducing the overconsumption. Tochi. So I gotta remember this.
土地
Tochi. Say next time. Yeah. Jikai.
次回
Alright. That's it for today. This is the day before level up. Tomorrow is level up day. What time is it? Oh, we got 7 minutes to pick up 11. Yeah, I guess we'll get to that. Okay. And here, I'd like to propose another thing. People that are naturally or take less conscious effort, one anecdotal argument would be that that person hasn't encountered something that they would consume in over excess. Aren't there biological factors as well when it comes to food absorption and metabolism? There is. And yet, despite those regulatory absorptions and whatnot, those autonomic like positions are overpowered by a tendency to overconsume. So when you're talking about the natural state of things, I think just because there are factors that tries to retain the homeostasis, the natural course of the human condition is that there's overconsumption, and it takes discipline. I consider something that's natural to be able to naturally sustain itself without any outside interference. So would you have a better chance at arguing that humans naturally moderate or humans don't naturally moderate? That these are, I don't know, obviously, the answer to that. As far as I'm aware, when it comes to observing human civilization and all of its conveniences, I think the natural state of human consumption is to tend to, even despite biological factors, they don't naturally not exceed those circumstances. We don't have to cite we don't have to cite special things like or like negative things. We can think about attention, physical performance and whatnot. So it's kind of tough. Here's another conversation that I've had before. Is what is conceivable by the human mind considered natural or not? So some people say no, obviously, and I think not even some people. I think the vast majority of people use the word natural as in something non-conscious, right? Because consciousness then violates all natural order or something like that. And I kind of like that. It's a clear cut between the two. So if we were going to take that, right? If we were going to take that as the natural side of things, then yes, I would argue that it is natural for people to be moderated. And then when we take population statistics and all the problems or the things we address all the time, I feel the thing that happens more often is considered the natural course of things, which does involve human consciousness. So it is up to what we're discussing is considered natural. Since you made the natural comment in relation to conscious effort, then I would probably agree that you're part of the situation where you're talking about if someone unconsciously do everything and what they're built. And I think there are checks and balances, yeah. In your body to do that. You gain weight because, and then that weight leads to problems. And those are the factors that should be telling you to moderate. In the case of the context of my your response about when it comes to healthy behavior, including food consumption, you're all about moderation. I think that's a conscious effort, not necessarily an unconscious one. The reason why I say that is if, say, an animal is presented with excess resources, they would have to make a conscious effort to moderate, not an unconscious one. So it's interesting. I think there's a incredibly provocative and convincing argument for all sides of this. I wonder about it all the time, right? I believe human condition is a natural part. Understanding the human condition is a natural part of the biological factors. But then again, I feel like it's interconnected, so you can't mutually segregate them. Which makes having clear, persuasive arguments or debates very difficult. It's nice to entertain the thought experiment. Like, do I have a natural, healthy behavior due to moderation? Or did the moderation condition me to have the conscious effort? It's interesting. I would say most of my things that I do now that are responsible for a significant amount of my healthy behavior in life was due to becoming aware that those things are to be moderated instead of having like a natural inclination or something like that. Monix. Okay, so look, snake, cloud. I might be underestimating because I think it's also a paradox, right? There is a paradox of awareness. What you're not aware of, you might not even know. So it's very difficult to quantify something that I'm not aware of. It would take someone else's awareness. In your case, it's absolutely a conscious effort to aim for moderation, not always successfully. I feel like unhealthy food consumption, quantity and type can be an addiction, not unlike alcoholism. That is true. And the hypothetical conversation that we were having is, what happens when it's not? And we're not talking about from a naturalistic standpoint. We're not talking about evolution or some sort of genetic modification to the humans. We're talking about retroactively producing the qualities and catharsis of food without the drawbacks of overconsumption. So there are many human technologies that have led to some of these finer points. However, it turns out even overconsumption of those things led to overconsumption. So Sub-Zero specifically mentioned, and I was alluding to the same thing, of the zero sugar zero sugar energy drinks, for example. Right, human R&D goes a long way to compensating for our stuff. I was curious what a world would be like. I mean, it could be negligibly different. I would love to hear thought experiments of this, where, like, since there's a breakthrough in food production, right? Food production, like a food consumption, like food understanding, food chemistry. They alleviated things like, for example, you can have pesto every single day, minus the calories. Like what? Here's my thought. It's a Star Trek thing. Imagine having a particle creator, a photon creating materializer or something, and they create food that stimulates the experience, right? But moderated to all your moderation needs. So like a pizza can taste like a pizza, but they provide the exact nutrients for your individualized moderation. So you capture the experience, but the moderation is compensated by technology. And we're kind of heading towards that. Now the question is, what would happen if, say, weapons R&D, business R&D, R&D in doom scrolling and social media were to be rechanneled into the fundamentals of food? Where would R&D be now? And I would like to see a Black Mirror episode of that. Like, Black Mirror tends to be dystopian, so I have a very rosy rose-colored goggles type of opinion and perspective. I tend to lean towards that. So I would love to see a more cynical or more counter argument against, and what that would look like. A very well thought out proposition, like, oh, it wouldn't change at all. Now food just happens to be the thing we fight over and whatnot. But it would be countered by the idea that, well, what if the invention alleviated food production due to R&D? So you're focusing on one of the essential experiences of human that's universal, right? Oftentimes fighting and bickering and war deals with thinking that thought process and experiences that are an impasse. You know, you can't, like, one spiritualism and another spiritualism are not universally felt, right? But food is, or food is arguably one of the more universally felt thing. So that happened to become the center. And I wouldn't say you can't take one from history. You know, back in the day, while modern technology could not alleviate this, humans became more peaceful and settled down and less nomadic when technology finally addressed some of the food situations, right? But what if that persisted into modern world that was not hampered by other things? Like, what if food came first? The food revolution continued as opposed to a sidestep to, I don't know, electricity, fossil fuels, money, weapons of mass destruction, equity. Like, it's such an interesting thought, because I was being very rosy yesterday. I tend to be quite rosy. Like, I'm the guy who says, how do I show a stranger that I like them without ever, like, I care about the stranger without ever using language, right? Since we're doing language, money, even feelings. I would give them food. The best food I can possibly make, and ironically even afford, to that person. And that's kind of sweet. Like, you might be thinking, oh no, but it's definitely love first, right? Like hugging and touching. Like, well, growing up with Chinese parents and diaspora, Food still exceeded that. It transcends language barriers, right? It tackles all the senses, and it's prone to addiction, as you mentioned, because of its very potent effect. And that's kind of neat. Now I need, like, the writers at Black Mirror. I really like the show because it challenges my rosy perspective. Like, you're right. I haven't even considered that. That's a good point. So I love doing these thought experiments. And usually the person I'm talking to is... This isn't a competition. It's not necessarily a reflection on the people I talk to. But generally speaking, the person I'm talking to are help balance my more optimistic lean sometimes with technology. So without being around the bush, the other person I usually talk to is far more cynical than I am, and that makes for a great conversation. And Sub-Zero was at the other end. So that's why it's definitely a fun idea to entertain. I must say I tend to be very cynical myself, although I try to work on it. Unless talking about fiction, I have a hard time envisioning a bright future brought about by technology in your lifetime anyway. I agree. It's so tough. Like, I can tell you, I say rosy things, but that's a conscious effort, right? I'm making a conscious effort that... Why do I make a conscious effort? That's a question I want to answer right now. Is because if I am around someone younger, I want to change that. I want to be the beginning of someone's ability to paint a brighter future. Because as I'm growing older, my future gets shorter and shorter. But I want to be someone who is less cynical. I think of cynical things. By no means am I not free of my cynicism. But when I'm around other people, and I like being around younger people or impressionable people, right? And I like being a teacher. So oftentimes, I know some people argue, well, then you're going to set them up for failure, right? Because they might not know the reality of the things. Like, well, there's ways to talk about acceptance while painting a hopeful, proactive way of not... Well, the options here, if we were to compare being cynical about a future technology versus optimistic, I think there are plenty of people out there who present cynical perspectives, and I like to be the counterforce, the one that presents a brighter future brought by technology. I wouldn't have the privilege of doing this right now without the bright future brought by technology, along with the cynical side of technology, right? It's and I'm not gonna say that my bright futures are void of cynicism. However, I take the Star Trek approach a lot of times, and Star Trek is why I like Star Trek. Because Star Trek is one of the few shows, I might have already mentioned this a couple of times, it takes the perspective of finding solutions, exploration, because the groundworks of the characters is from the perspective of technology bringing a utopia, not catastrophic, self-destructive nature. It had become ways to remediate and mitigate and even moderate, right? Whatever it is that we do that makes us cynical and cyclically self-destructive. Interesting. I like it. I certainly rely on food quite a lot. It's like, you seem, like, I can't tell you whenever I see someone sad, and hear me out, it deals with human consumption moderation. It saddens me that you can't see someone who's sad, or maybe super excited, or maybe even super depressed, like super low energy, and you're like, oh, I want to give this guy their favorite food. But then you start thinking, your cynical side start thinking, oh, but what if they're on a diet? Or, oh man, what if they have diabetes? Or like, what if they have what if they're diabetic? Oh man, what if they're allergic? And oh, maybe they don't like it. That's the type of thought that really disheartens me, because I think if I still have to take the gamble, I would still give them a cookie. Now, you might be thinking, well, not everyone likes cookies. It's like, yes. And I would argue, if you poll why people don't like specific foods, especially foods that are high and calorie dense and have properties that are universally loved, it usually has something to do with a conscious effort of understanding the nerfs on food, the balance checks on food. So I would say cookies and desserts and stuff like that would explode in more popularity as a use for like a replacement for alcohol, for example, or doom scrolling or something, if it didn't come with the caveat of this is unhealthy for you most of the time. Right? So what do you give the person as a universal panacea to cheer them up? It's certainly not ice cream, because now because of the hyper awareness of caloric dense things and balanced things, some people choose to despise food despite liking the foods they like, largely because they understand their conscious ability to lose control. As a father, it's a tough balance to find, and I feel it will become more difficult as their daughter grows up and her view of the world expands and get more complex. I can't even imagine what that's like, right? Okay, I can imagine to some extent, like watching a high school student finally graduate from college, right? But that's so tangential compared to how intimate it is with one's own child, and that it's like 3 times, like exponential, unfathomably more complex. And that's, I kind of want that experience at some time, hopefully before I die, but we'll see. Both the anxiety, the difficulties, I personally like the idea of stepping up. You've been on strict diets in the past, but I would never have been held it against to someone who doesn't know it to offer you a cookie. I know. But these days, even like, you take the cookie, right? And then you think it's a great thing. But my thought is, man, but there are times when even if you offer it, someone say like, oh, I would love to, but I can't. That is the context I'm talking about, right? Like, when Sub-Zero has celiac, so whenever I'm like, oh yeah, pasta, like I haven't had pasta in a long time, it's like, oh no, not wheat pasta, I can't have wheat pasta because of celiac. And I'm like, dang, that sucks. Or like, that sucks as in I want him to experience pasta with me, but that sucks because we can't, or not as great, right? That kind of thing. And it would be it's not that far of a stretch with, oh yeah, I'm gonna go grab a bubble tea, and then my friend would be like, no, sorry, like I'm already over my calories today, and I already had like a sugary coffee. It's like, oh, that's a shame. Like, nah, forget it. Let's just go and do something else, right? That kind of thing. Ooh, that's kind of, maybe I'm being a little overly angry at biology. Like, here's another one which can lead to problems, of course, right? Hey, you want to share a cold one with me? It's like, oh, sorry, like I don't drink that stuff, right? Now I could see a Black Mirror episode where they would show overconsumption exceeds and becomes a dystopian on its own. Like, for example, you could make an argument: food shortage skyrockets, right? And productivity plummets because all of humanity has become overconsumers because they remove the overconsumption limit on food or something. You could see that. Like, for example, I'm going to use a medical example or like a biological example. If you lift the checks and balances on growth on cells, you get cancer. So would humans just consume and sap all the resources even more? A realistic portrayal would be no, then they would have checks and balances. So what would that look like? So in the future, could a society built around food have policies only dealing with food because food has overshadowed all the importances of other things, right? Humans tend to find things they specialize in. Right now, it's doom scrolling. Right? They go through trends until moderation hits. So I would have loved to see a fictional world where food had the overpowering effect. So you have societies or theoretical societies built over moderating food in a different way. And then you would have people like, "Hey, yeah, I just got home. You wanna come over? You wanna come over and like make lunch?" And then humans would just like spend 3 hours making lunch. If you know what I mean. Like it would be different. Like, think about a conversation where, oh yeah, sorry, I was like doom scrolling for an hour. And instead of doom scrolling for an hour, like, hey, my bad. I just got back from spending an hour making lunch, but it was fantastic. Like, it was so worth. Versus, oh yeah, I was doom scrolling for an hour. That was so worth. Yeah, that's a fair point. As much as I can watch out for calorie count sometimes, I can still technically eat anything you want. Yeah, sort of me too. Um, short of, drinking steamed hot whole milk kind of deal. It's different for people with allergies or intolerance, so something to be grateful for. There are some extenuating circumstances, like the perception of taste is different. I think it's beautiful, but at the same time, it's also gee, that kind of stinks. Like, I love cilantro, but if you're one of those people, which you probably will know, it tastes like soap to some people. So there's also non-allergy and non-intolerance things that are like, gee, darn it. Maybe we can make cilantro taste like something you like to taste, but then it'd be a different experience. But it'd be interesting. Even like food technology. And I already said this yesterday with Sub-Zero. It's not like food technology is not happening, right? I don't know if you heard about people making salmon. I'm talking about salmon because it's come up with me and Sub-Zero. He's Norwegian, so he obviously he had brought up the whole idea of salmon because of Norway. There are people who print, quote unquote, print salmon for sashimi quality salmon. That's something to think about. They printed it. You're firmly the love cilantro group as well. Oh yeah, I absolutely love cilantro. Whatever you want to call it, coriander, I don't know, basil, Chinese basil, cilantro. Just hit me up with that. But you also heard that it's very divisive. Yeah, it's very divisive, and it has a biological component, a very consistent biological component to it that causes the cilantro's divisiveness. Yeah. Anyways, thanks for asking. What Have you had any deep discussions lately, Gecko? Can you recall any interesting conversations that brought up some deep thinking? All right, as I complete this, compare, net, sickle, horse, easy, suit, age, cape, reads. So let's go. Ji, chi, chi, ju, yo, i, kun, ai, yoku, yaku, o, getsu, kyu, ne, shin, ja, ken, ba, mori, jo, asa, ban, kota, e, ha, do, an, kumo, su, raku, wa, den, sho, an. Oops. All right, and then we have a few here today. Typo on ku. Kukan. Oh, kukan. Oops. And I misread the direction, which happens from time to time. This eastward. This was synonym, English synonym. What's up with me in this like stroke here? So skoshi. I wrote a bit, but we added it a little, a few. And then I have a few others here. We have outside, soto. Soto. Oh, it was salt was the key word. Both directions. Both and direction. So, ryoho. How do I... Wait. Why did I have problems? Oh, it's because of ho. We gotta hang up. It ends up being traditional ho or on. I don't know why I'm writing it that way. So ho. We have few plus she. Oh, we just went that squishy. And then dirt and earth. Wait, yes. And that is the to. special. That's it. You were talking politics with some of your colleagues this week. Oh, that's interesting. The interesting part was not the talk per se, but when we started talking about how we and most people live in a social bubble. I see. The idea that it is incredibly difficult for people to witness proper representation in their lives on any topic, I guess. Intriguing. So, did you have was there any talk about microcosms and echo chambers, or in-group versus out-group kind of thing? Because nowadays it's incredibly difficult for people to witness proper representation, largely because proper representation has a larger scope now, right? Especially with the internet. All right. Before then, hold on to that thought. Like, just a thought. You can go on as you're typing your thoughts out. This is the end of our WaniKani session, our Japanese session. If you're gonna watch this later, arigatou gozaimasu. Right. So for those who are only interested in Japanese or WaniKani, again, you're always feel free to follow along or come around with our hot takes every once in a while. I would love to discuss those things. Obviously, they would be very deep discussions. You're always welcome. And for those who are only interested in that, minasan, mata ne. I'm gonna quickly get up to take a bathroom break, stretch a little bit, and then come back for Hanzo Hero. Thank you.